The coffee cup shattered against the diner floor, fragments scattering like the pieces of Celine Monroe's breaking heart. Her hands trembled as she gripped the phone, the caseworker's cold voice still echoing in her ear. 72 hours, Ms. Monroe. Bring proof of marriage and stable housing, or Naomi stays in the system permanently. 72 hours to find a husband. 72 hours to save her daughter. Impossible, she whispered, mascara-stained tears tracking down her brown cheeks. Behind her, a chair scraped against the floor. A voice, smooth as aged whiskey with the barest hint of an accent, cut through her despair. Nothing is impossible, Ms. Monroe. I can give you what you need. She turned to find a man in a three-piece black suit, his Korean features sharp and dangerous, his dark eyes holding secrets that could destroy kingdoms. On his hand, a dragon tattoo coiled beneath his Patek Philippe watch, a symbol she recognized from the news. The Biko Syndicate. But every deal, he said, stepping closer, has a price. Welcome back to the channel, beautiful souls. If you're new here, I'm bringing you the most intense, heart-racing romance stories you can't find anywhere else. So, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so you never miss these intense romance stories. Drop a comment telling me, would you accept help from a dangerous stranger to save your child? And if you're loving this already, smash that like button. Now, let's get into this story. The fluorescent lights of Ruby's diner hummed their usual tired song as Celine Monroe moved through her Friday morning shift on autopilot. Coffee pot in one hand, order pad in the other, smile plastered on her face like armor. But inside, she was screaming. Celine, you good, honey? Lou's gruff voice cut through her spiral. The diner's owner stood by the kitchen window, his weathered face creased with concern. Fine, Lou. Just fine. The lie tasted bitter. She wasn't fine. She was drowning. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket for the third time in an hour. Celine already knew what it was, another message from Diane Fraser, the caseworker who held Naomi's future in her perfectly manicured hands. Final reminder, tomorrow's hearing is your last chance. Judge Morrison requires proof of stable housing, verifiable income, married or committed partnership. No exceptions. No extensions. Celine's vision blurred. Married or committed partnership. The words mocked her. You couldn't just conjure a husband out of thin air, no matter how desperately you needed one. 6 months ago, her world had imploded. The apartment building where she'd raised Naomi had been condemned, black mold in the walls, structural failure written in red across the notice. She'd scrambled, stayed with friends, tried shelters, burned through every favor and connection. But waitressing at a roadside diner didn't pay enough for first month, last month, and deposit on a new place. Not in this city. Not anywhere. When CPS came, Celine had been sleeping in her 2003 Honda Civic with Naomi curled up in the back seat. Temporary placement, they'd promised. Just until you get back on your feet. That was 4 months ago. 4 months of supervised visits. 4 months of watching her baby girl's eyes grow more confused, more distant. 4 months of jumping through legal hoops only to be handed more requirements, more impossible standards. And now this. Less than 24 hours to produce a husband. Order up. The kitchen bell rang. Celine grabbed the plates, eggs over easy, hash browns, wheat toast, and headed to booth 7. That's when her phone rang. Not buzzed. Rang. Her heart stopped. Naomi's foster mother only called for emergencies. Lou, I need to. Take it, he said, waving her toward the back. Celine barely made it to the break room before answering. Hello? Is Naomi okay? She's fine physically. Mrs. Patterson's voice was carefully neutral. But Celine, she's asking for you constantly. She's not sleeping. Won't eat. This morning she packed her little backpack and sat by the door waiting for you to pick her up. The image shattered her. Celine pressed a fist to her mouth, holding back a sob. I know tomorrow is the hearing, Mrs. Patterson continued. I'll be honest with you, I've been doing this for 15 years. Judge Morrison doesn't play. If you don't have everything he's asking for, documented and verified, He'll terminate your rights and move Naomi to adoption track. I know. Celine's voice cracked. I know, but I can't. I'm rooting for you. I really am. But you need a miracle. After she hung up, Celine slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor, knees pulled to her chest. Tears streamed down her face, hot and helpless. A miracle. She was fresh out of those. The break room door creaked open. Celine looked up, expecting Lou. Instead, she found herself staring at probably the most beautiful man she'd ever seen in real life. He was tall, easily 6'2", with sharp, elegant features that marked him as Korean. His black hair was styled back from his face, emphasizing high cheekbones and a jawline that could cut glass. But it was his eyes that stopped her breath. Dark, intense, and currently fixed on her with an expression she couldn't read. He wore a three-piece black suit and carried himself with the kind of confidence that came from power. Real power. I'm sorry, Celine scrambled to her feet, swiping at her tears. This area is employees only. I know. His voice was deep, accented with soul's cadence. I came to find you specifically. Warning bells rang in Celine's mind. She'd lived in this city long enough to recognize danger, and this man radiated it like heat. I don't know you, she said carefully, calculating the distance to the door. No. But I know your situation. He took a single step forward. You need a husband by tomorrow. I'm offering to be that husband. Celine's brain stuttered. What? I was in booth 12. I overheard your phone conversation. He said it matter-of-factly, as if eavesdropping and proposing marriage to strangers was perfectly normal. You need to satisfy the court's requirements to regain custody of your daughter. I can provide that. You're insane. Celine moved toward the door. I'm calling Lou. Han Jianjin. She paused. That's my name, he continued. I own Biko Enterprises, the commercial real estate firm downtown. I also run other businesses. I have a 10-bedroom house in Willowbrook Heights, multiple income streams, and a spotless legal record. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. On paper, at least. Celine's hand hovered over the door handle. Biko Enterprises. She'd heard of it, impossible not to, with their name on half the new buildings in the city. But there were rumors too. Whispers about the young Korean power broker who'd bought his way into the city's elite circles with money that came from darker sources. Why? She turned to face him. Why would you possibly want to marry a broke waitress you don't even know? Jianjin was quiet for a long moment, those dangerous eyes studying her face. Because I understand what it's like to have a child taken from you. And because I need a wife as much as you need a husband. That makes no sense. It makes perfect sense in my world. He pulled out a business card, heavy black cardstock with silver embossing. My number. Think about it, but don't think too long. You have until tomorrow morning. He moved past her, and Celine caught the scent of expensive cologne and something else. Gunpowder? No. Couldn't be. At the door, he paused. For what it's worth, Miss Monroe, I meant what I said. I can help you get your daughter back. The question is whether you're desperate enough to accept help from someone like me. Then he was gone. Celine stared at the card in her hand, her thumb tracing the raised letters of his name. Han Jianjin. She should throw it away. Walk back to her shift, finish the day, and figure out something, anything, else. But she couldn't stop seeing Naomi's face. Couldn't stop hearing Mrs. Patterson's words. You need a miracle. Maybe miracles came in dangerous packages. Celine didn't call that night. She couldn't. Every time she picked up her phone, her mother's voice echoed in her head, baby girl, if something seems too good to be true, it's because it is. But at 3 a.m., lying awake in the tiny room she rented week by week above a laundromat, Celine did what she'd sworn she wouldn't. She Googled him. The legitimate search results came first. Han Jianjin, 34, CEO of Biko Enterprises. Harvard MBA. Seoul National University undergraduate. Real estate mogul who transformed the city's waterfront. Philanthropist. Eligible bachelor. The photos showed him at charity galas, cutting ribbons at building openings, shaking hands with the mayor. In every image, he looked composed, controlled, almost cold. Then Celine went deeper. She found the Reddit threads, the true crime forums, the newspaper articles that asked questions without providing answers. Han Jianjin's meteoric rise. His family's connections to Seoul's underground. The suspicious fire that killed his business rival 3 years ago. The federal investigation that went nowhere. One article included a quote from an unnamed FBI source. Jianjin runs one of the most sophisticated operations we've ever seen. Everything looks legitimate on the surface, but underneath? He's built an empire on laundering money for syndicates from Seoul to Los Angeles. We just can't prove it. Celine's hands shook as she read. This man wasn't just dangerous. He was the kind of dangerous that destroyed lives. Her phone showed 3:47 a.m. The hearing was at 10 a.m. In 6 hours and 13 minutes, she'd walk into that courtroom empty-handed and lose Naomi forever. Or... Celine pulled up Jianjin's contact. Her finger hovered over the call button. What kind of mother are you, even considering this? The kind who'd do anything to save her daughter. She pressed call. He answered on the first ring. Miss Monroe. His voice was alert, no trace of sleep. I was beginning to think you wouldn't contact me. I need to know why, Celine said. The real reason. Nobody does something like this out of kindness. Especially not someone like you. Someone like me. He sounded almost amused. You did your research. Enough to know I should run the other way. But you won't. Because you love your daughter more than you fear me. The truth of it stung. Tell me why you need a wife. Silence stretched between them. Then, I have a son. Min. He's 8 years old. Celine sat up straighter. This wasn't in any article she'd read. His mother was my wife, Jianjin continued, his voice carefully flat. She died 3 years ago. Cancer. Since then, Min has been struggling. He doesn't speak. Hasn't said a word since we buried her. I'm sorry, Celine said reflexively. Don't be. Just listen. His tone sharpened. My late wife's family are old money Seoul aristocrats who never approved of her marrying me. They've been fighting for custody of Min since she died, claiming I'm an unfit father because of my business associations. The case has been tied up in international court, but they've found a judge sympathetic to their cause. And a wife would help your case, Celine finished. A wife and a stable family environment. The hearing is in 3 weeks. I need to present evidence of a traditional household, married couple, mother figure for Min, the whole picture. So we're both desperate. Desperation makes for honest transactions. She could hear him moving, the sound of ice against glass. Here's what I'm offering, we marry tonight. I provide immediate documentation of marriage, housing, and income for your court appearance tomorrow. You and your daughter move into my home. We maintain the appearance of a committed relationship until both our custody situations are resolved. And then what? Then we reassess. If you want to leave, I'll provide you with enough money to start over, first-class apartment, job references, whatever you need. If you prefer to stay. He paused. We can discuss alternative arrangements. This is insane, Celine whispered. Yes, Jianjin agreed. But it's also your only option. You have 5 hours until you need to be at the courthouse. I can have the marriage license expedited and a judge ready to perform the ceremony by 8 a.m. That gives you time to file the documentation before your 10 a.m. hearing. You can get a marriage license that fast? Miss Monroe, I can get anything that fast. That's what power means. The casual way he said it sent chills down her spine. This was a man who bent the world to his will through money, influence, and probably violence. If I do this, Celine said slowly, I need guarantees. About my safety. About Naomi's safety. You'll both be safer than you've ever been, Jianjin said, and she believed him. I protect what's mine, and if you agree to this, you become mine to protect. No one will touch you or your daughter. I promise you that. Mine. The possessive word should have terrified her. Instead, it sparked something else. Something she didn't want to examine. I need time to think. You don't have time. His voice was gentle but firm. I'll text you an address. Be there by 7 a.m. if you want to save your daughter. Don't be there if you'd rather take your chances with the judge. He hung up. 30 seconds later, a text arrived with an address in Willowbrook Heights, the most expensive neighborhood in the city. Below it, a single line, bring whatever matters to you. You won't be going back to that room above the laundromat. Celine looked around her space. Everything she owned fit in 2 duffel bags. Clothes, photos of Naomi, her mother's recipe book. The sum total of a life that had been stripped down to bare survival. She thought about Naomi sitting by the door with her backpack, waiting for a mother who couldn't come. Then she started packing. What do you think? Is Jianjun genuinely trying to help, or does he have darker motives? Drop your theories in the comments. And if you're as hooked as I am, hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who loves a dangerous romance. Now let's see what happens when Celine shows up at his door. The house, no, the estate, took Celine's breath away. Wrought iron gates opened to a circular driveway where a fountain burbled quietly in the pre-dawn darkness. The main house was modern, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows, lit from within like a jewel box. Celine's Honda sputtered and died in front of the entrance, as if even her car knew it didn't belong here. Before she could second-guess herself, the massive front door opened. Jianjun stood backlit in the doorway, and Celine's stomach flipped. In the diner, he'd been intimidating. Here, in his own domain, he was absolutely devastating. He'd changed into a fresh suit, charcoal gray this time, and his hair was still wet from a shower. You came, he said, and was that relief in his voice? I'm probably making the biggest mistake of my life, Celine replied, grabbing her duffel bags. Probably. His lips quirked. But at least it's an interesting mistake. He took her bags before she could protest and led her inside. The interior was stunning, marble floors, modern art on the walls, a floating staircase that curved up to the second floor. Everything was decorated in blacks, whites, and grays, sophisticated and a little cold. My attorney is in the study with the paperwork, Jianjun said. We'll need to review and sign before we head to the courthouse. Where's your son? Jianjun paused mid-step. Sleeping. I haven't told him yet. I wanted to make sure you'd actually show up before I explained that he was getting a stepmother. The word stepmother hit Celine like a physical blow. This wasn't just a legal arrangement. She'd be stepping into a child's life, a grieving, traumatized child who'd already lost one mother. I want to meet him, she said. Before we do this. I need to see him. Jianjun studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Follow me. They climbed the floating staircase to the second floor, moving down a hallway lined with photographs. Celine caught glimpses of a beautiful Korean woman with a gentle smile, Jianjun's late wife. In every photo where they appeared together, his hand was on her, his body angled toward her protectively. He'd loved her. Deeply. Celine wondered what it would feel like to be loved like that by a man like him, then shoved the thought away. This was a transaction. Nothing more. Jianjun opened a door at the end of the hall. The room inside was the opposite of the rest of the house's minimalism. Toys lined shelves, drawings covered the walls, and glow-in-the-dark stars dotted the ceiling. In a bed shaped like a race car, a small figure slept curled around a stuffed tiger. Min was beautiful. Even in sleep, Celine could see the delicate features he'd inherited from his mother and the strong bone structure that came from Jianjun. His hair fell across his forehead in soft black waves. Hey, buddy, Jianjun said softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. There's someone I want you to meet. Min's eyes opened, dark and solemn and ancient in his small face. He looked at his father, then at Celine standing in the doorway. No fear. No surprise. Just calm assessment. This is Celine, Jianjun continued, his hand gentle on his son's back. She's going to be staying with us. She has a daughter about your age named Naomi. Min sat up slowly, still watching Celine. She stepped forward, crouching so she was at his eye level. Hi, Min. Your dad's right, I have a little girl. She loves to draw, just like you. Celine gestured to the artwork covering the walls. These are really good. Especially the tiger. Min's gaze flicked to the drawing she'd indicated, a fierce orange tiger with kind eyes. He looked back at Celine, then did something that made her throat tight. He reached out and took her hand. His palm was small and warm in hers. He didn't speak, couldn't or wouldn't, she didn't know, but his eyes asked a question. Are you going to leave too? I'm going to try really hard to stay, Celine whispered, knowing it was a promise she might not be able to keep. Min nodded once, as if that was enough, and released her hand. Jianjin's expression when she looked up was unreadable, but something had shifted in the air between them. We should go, he said quietly. The attorney is waiting. The paperwork was extensive. Prenuptial agreement, Jianjin would retain all assets acquired before the marriage. Celine would receive a generous settlement upon divorce. Custody arrangements, both parties would have equal parental rights to both children while married. Financial agreements, Jianjin would provide all housing, food, and educational expenses. Celine would receive a monthly allowance that made her eyes water, $10,000 for personal expenses. This is too much, Celine said, staring at the number. It's standard for my wife, Jianjin replied. You'll have social obligations, clothing requirements, appearance standards. 10,000 is reasonable. His wife. She was about to become his wife. The attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Grace Park, slid the final document across the desk. Marriage license. Sign here and here. Celine's hand shook as she picked up the pen. Miss Monroe. Jianjin's voice stopped her. Once you sign this, you're under my protection. But you're also in my world. Do you understand what that means? That things might get dangerous. That things are dangerous. Always. His eyes held hers. I have enemies. People who would hurt you to get to me. People who won't care that this marriage started as a business arrangement. Are you trying to talk me out of this? I'm making sure you know what you're walking into. Celine thought of Naomi. Of the courtroom waiting just hours away. Of the choice between risk and certainty, the certainty of losing everything. She signed. Jianjin's signature followed, bold and definitive. Congratulations, Grace said dryly. You're legally married as soon as Judge Chen performs the ceremony. Judge Chen's chambers were in the same courthouse where Celine's custody hearing would take place in 3 hours. The irony wasn't lost on her. The ceremony itself took less than 10 minutes. Judge Chen, an elderly Korean man who'd clearly known Jianjin's family for years, performed the abbreviated ritual with efficient warmth. Do you, Han Jianjin, take this woman as your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Jianjin's voice was steady. Do you, Celine Monroe, take this man as your lawfully wedded husband? Celine's voice almost failed. I do. By the power vested in me by the state, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Judge Chen smiled. You may kiss your bride. Celine's eyes widened. She hadn't thought about this part. Jianjin stepped closer, his hand coming up to cup her cheek. His palm was warm, his thumb brushing her cheekbone with unexpected gentleness. May I? He asked quietly, so only she could hear. She nodded, not trusting her voice. His lips met hers softly, a bare brush of contact that somehow felt more intimate than anything Celine had ever experienced. He tasted like coffee and mint and something darker, more dangerous. The kiss lasted only seconds, but when he pulled back, her heart was racing. Congratulations, Judge Chen said. The marriage certificate will be ready in an hour. Outside the chambers, Jianjin checked his watch. Your hearing is at 10. It's 8:45 now. Grace will file the marriage certificate and supporting documentation with the family court clerk. I'll attend the hearing with you. You don't have to. You're my wife now, Jianjin interrupted. Of course I'm coming. The word wife in his mouth sent shivers down her spine. Courtroom 4B was exactly as grim as Celine remembered from previous hearings. Fluorescent lighting, scuffed linoleum, the smell of industrial cleaner and desperation. Diane Fraser, the caseworker, stood near the front with her ever-present clipboard. When she saw Celine enter with Jianjun at her side, her perfectly plucked eyebrows rose nearly to her hairline. "Miss Monroe," she said slowly. "You're early." "Mrs. Han, actually." Jianjun's hands settled on the small of Celine's back, warm and possessive. "We were married this morning." If Diane's eyebrows could have climbed higher, they would have. "I see. How convenient." "How wonderful," Jianjun corrected, his smile sharp as a blade. "My wife and I are looking forward to bringing her daughter home today." "My wife." He kept saying it, each repetition making it feel more real. Grace Park appeared with a manila folder thick with documents. All filings completed. Marriage certificate, proof of joint residence, verification of income, character references, and home study waiver approved by Judge Chin. Diane flipped through the paperwork, her frown deepening with each page. "This is all very thorough." "My wife deserves thoroughness," Jianjun said smoothly. When Judge Morrison entered, a severe man in his 60s with steel-gray hair, everyone rose. Case number 4792, petition to restore parental rights to Celine Monroe regarding minor child Naomi Monroe, the bailiff announced. "Your Honor," Diane began, "the petitioner has submitted extensive documentation this morning indicating substantial changes in her circumstances." "I can see that, Ms. Fraser." Judge Morrison peered over his glasses at the folder before him. "Marriage certificate dated today. Employment verification from Mr. Han's Enterprises. Proof of residence at." He paused, 1247 Willowbrook Heights. "That's quite an address, Mrs. Han." "My husband has been very supportive, Your Honor," Celine said, finding her voice. Judge Morrison's gaze shifted to Jianjun. "Mr. Han. I know who you are. Your reputation precedes you." "I certainly hope so, Your Honor." Jianjun's tone was perfectly respectful, but Celine caught the steel underneath. "Let me be clear," the judge continued. "I don't care how much money you have or how many buildings have your name on them. What I care about is the welfare of a 7-year-old girl who has been through enough trauma. Can you provide me with assurance that this marriage is genuine and will provide stability for this child?" Before Jianjun could answer, a small voice came from the back of the courtroom. "Mommy?" Celine spun. Naomi stood in the doorway with Mrs. Patterson, her little hand gripping the foster mother's fingers. But her eyes, those beautiful brown eyes, were locked on Celine. "Baby girl," Celine breathed. "Mommy." Naomi yanked free and ran down the aisle, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders. Celine dropped to her knees and caught her daughter in her arms, breathing in the familiar scent of the strawberry shampoo Mrs. Patterson used, feeling the solid warmth of her child's body against hers for the first time in 4 months. "I missed you," Naomi sobbed into her neck. "I missed you so much." "I know, baby. I know. I'm so sorry." Tears streamed down Celine's face. "But Mommy's here now. Mommy's going to take you home." "Is that true?" Naomi pulled back, her face wet and hopeful. "Can I really come home?" Celine looked up at Judge Morrison, her heart in her throat. The judge's severe expression had softened slightly. He studied the mother and daughter, then glanced at Jianjun, who'd moved to stand protectively behind Celine. "Ms. Fraser," Judge Morrison said. "Your recommendation?" Diane looked down at her clipboard, then at Naomi clinging to Celine. "The documentation is in order. The home at Willowbrook Heights exceeds all safety and space requirements. Mr. Han has no criminal record and significant community standing." She paused. "I recommend a trial period of reunification with monthly check-ins." "Your Honor," Celine started. "I'm inclined to agree with Ms. Fraser," the judge interrupted. "With one modification. I want weekly check-ins for the first month, then monthly thereafter for 6 months. During that time, the marriage and home environment will be monitored to ensure this arrangement is in Naomi's best interest." "We understand, Your Honor," Jianjun said. Whatever is required. Judge Morrison nodded. Then I'm ordering the immediate return of Naomi Monroe to the custody of her mother, Celine Han, with the conditions stated. Court adjourned. The gavel's bang was the most beautiful sound Celine had ever heard. Is that your car? Naomi's voice was filled with awe as Jianjun led them to a sleek black Mercedes SUV in the parking garage. It's one of them, Jianjun replied. He opened the back door, revealing a brand new car seat. I had my assistant install this morning. Is it the right size? Celine stared at the car seat, top of the line, safe enough to survive an apocalypse, and felt something crack in her chest. It's perfect, she whispered. Naomi climbed in, chattering about Mrs. Patterson's cat and the school she'd been going to and the friends she'd made at the foster home. Normal kid things. As if her whole world hadn't been upended. As Jianjun drove, smooth and competent like he did everything, Celine watched the city slide past. Everything had changed in 12 hours. She'd gone from homeless to housed, single to married, separated to reunited. Thank you, she said quietly. Jianjun glanced at her. You already thanked me. I mean it, though. What you did, what you're doing, I don't have words for it. Then don't use words. His hand found hers on the center console, lacing their fingers together. Just be present. Be my wife. Help me with Min. That's thanks enough. His hand was warm and strong, calloused in unexpected places. Celine wondered what those hands had done, what violence they'd committed in the name of his empire. Then she decided she didn't want to know. Not yet. Mommy, where are we going? Naomi asked. Home, baby, Celine said, squeezing Jianjun's hand. We're going home. The first week was chaos. Naomi was overwhelmed by the mansion, by having her own room, with an ensuite bathroom and a balcony overlooking the gardens, by the sudden appearance of a stepfather and stepbrother. Min watched everything with his silent, solemn eyes, communicating through drawings and gestures. Celine navigated it all while trying to remember this was temporary, this was business, this was not a real family. But then she'd catch Jianjun helping Naomi with her homework, his deep voice patient as he explained fractions. Or she'd find Min slipping his hand into hers while they watched TV. Or she'd wake up to Jianjun in the kitchen making Korean breakfast, extra portions already plated for her and Naomi. You don't have to do this, she said one morning, watching him move around the kitchen with familiar ease. Do what? Take care of us like we're really yours. Jianjun paused, spatula in hand. You are really mine. That's what the marriage certificate says. You know what I mean. He crossed to where she sat at the island and braced his hands on either side of her, caging her in. This close, she could see the darker ring around his irises, could count the individual lashes framing those dangerous eyes. Let me be very clear, Celine, he said softly. When I commit to something, I commit fully. This marriage might have started as convenience, but every day you're under my roof, you become more real to me. You and Naomi both. His gaze dropped to her lips. So when I cook breakfast, when I help with homework, when I make sure you're both safe and cared for, that's not pretend. That's me being your husband. Celine's breath caught. Jianjun. Daddy. Min won't share his crayons. Naomi's voice shattered the moment. Jianjun straightened, his mask of control sliding back into place. I'll handle it, he said, and left the kitchen. Celine pressed a hand to her racing heart. This was getting complicated. The first sign of real danger came 2 weeks into the marriage. Celine was at the grocery store with both kids. Jianjun had insisted on a security detail, a polite but intimidating man named Day who shadowed them everywhere, when her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Han. The voice was male, accented, unfamiliar. You don't know me, but I know you. I know your daughter Naomi is 7 years old. I know she's wearing a yellow dress today. I know she's standing right next to you in the cereal aisle. Ice flooded Celine's veins. She grabbed Naomi's hand and pulled her close, her eyes scanning the store wildly. Who is this? A concerned party. Your husband has something that belongs to my employer. We'd like it back. If he doesn't comply, well. The voice turned ugly. Pretty little girls are so fragile, aren't they? The line went dead. Day was at Celine's side in seconds. Mrs. Hahn, what's wrong? Someone just threatened Naomi. Her voice shook. They're watching us right now. Day's expression went arctic. He spoke rapid Korean into his earpiece while herding Celine and the kids toward the exit. 2 more security personnel materialized from nowhere, forming a protective barrier. They were home in 15 minutes. Jianjin's Mercedes was already in the driveway, which meant he'd left work early. He met them at the door, his face a mask of cold fury. Inside. Now. Once the kids were settled in the den with Min's tablet and strict instructions not to leave the room, Jianjin turned to Celine. Tell me exactly what happened. She recounted the call, watching his expression grow darker with every word. Fucking Huang, he bit out. I should have known he'd pull something like this. Who's Huang? A rival who thinks he can take over my territories. Jianjin paced like a caged tiger. He's been pushing boundaries for months, but this, threatening my family, this is a declaration of war. My family. He said it like he meant it. What does he want? Celine asked. Jianjin stopped pacing. I intercepted a shipment of his last month. High-grade product worth about 20 million street value. He wants it back. So give it to him. It's not that simple. Jianjin's jaw tightened. In my world, backing down once means you're weak. And weak men don't survive. But if you don't, I will handle this. He crossed to her, his hands coming up to frame her face. Do you hear me? I will handle this. Huang will never touch you or the children. I promise you that. How can you be sure? His smile was terrifying. Because by tomorrow morning, Huang won't be in a position to threaten anyone ever again. Celine's stomach dropped. Jianjin, you can't. I can. I will. His thumbs brushed her cheekbones. This is who I am, Celine. I told you my world was dangerous. This is what I meant. I don't want you to kill anyone for me. I'm not doing it for you. His eyes burned into hers. I'm doing it for me. Because the thought of someone hurting you makes me want to burn the entire city down. Because somewhere in the last 2 weeks, you stopped being a convenient wife and became someone I can't stop thinking about. Someone I want to protect at any cost. The confession hung in the air between them. I don't know what to say, Celine whispered. Say you'll trust me. Say you'll let me keep you safe. I trust you, she said, and realized it was true. This man who ran organized crime syndicates and built empires on blood money, she trusted him. Maybe that made her crazy. Maybe that made her complicit. Or maybe it just made her his. Jianjin kissed her then, hard and claiming, pouring everything he couldn't say into the press of his lips against hers. Celine kissed him back, fisting her hands in his shirt, pulling him closer. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Jianjin rested his forehead against hers. I have to go, he said. Day and the security team will stay here. Don't open the door for anyone. Don't leave the house. I'll be back before morning. Be careful. He smiled grimly. Careful is for people who have something to lose. I have everything to lose now. Then he was gone, the door closing behind him with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot. Celine didn't sleep that night. She put the kids to bed, checked and rechecked the locks, paced the living room while Day stood guard at the front door. At 3 a.m., her phone buzzed. Jianjin, it's done. Huang won't be a problem anymore. Celine, are you okay? Jianjin, not even a scratch. Be home in 20 minutes. She was waiting in the foyer when he came in. His suit jacket was gone, his shirt sleeves rolled up, and there was blood on his hands. Jianjin. It's not mine, he said quickly. I'm fine. Whose is it? You don't want to know. Yes, I do. Celine stepped closer. If I'm in this world with you, I want to know all of it. Jianjun studied her for a long moment. I didn't kill him. But I made it very clear that if he ever looks in your direction again, I will. Then I took over his operations, all of them. By sunrise, everyone in the organization will know you and the children are untouchable. Just like that? Just like that. He moved toward the stairs. I need a shower. Go back to bed. Jianjun. He paused. Thank you for protecting us. Always, he said simply, and continued up the stairs. Celine stood alone in the foyer, her heart pounding. She'd married a monster to save her daughter. But somewhere along the way, that monster had become her husband. And God help her, she was falling in love with him. 6 weeks into the marriage, Diane Fraser showed up for her monthly check-in. Celine tried not to panic as the caseworker toured the house, made notes on her clipboard, observed Naomi playing with Min in the game room. They seem close, Diane observed. They're siblings, Celine said. Of course they're close. Step-siblings, Diane corrected, but her tone wasn't unkind. How are things with you and Mr. Han? I'm falling in love with him and it terrifies me. Good, Celine said aloud. Really good. He's been incredibly supportive. And the marriage? It's genuine. Celine thought about the way Jianjun looked at her over morning coffee. The way his hand found hers under the dinner table. The way he'd kissed her temple last night and whispered, "Sleep well, beautiful," before heading to his study for late-night calls. Yes, she said. It's genuine. Diane made another note. I'm going to recommend to Judge Morrison that we extend the check-ins to bi-monthly. You've exceeded expectations, Celine. Congratulations. After Diane left, Celine found Jianjun in his office. He was on the phone speaking rapid Korean, but when he saw her in the doorway, he ended the call immediately. How did it go? Good. Great, actually. Celine sat in the leather chair across from his desk. She's recommending less frequent monitoring. That's excellent news. But Jianjun didn't look happy. What's wrong? He ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of frustration. My custody hearing for Min is in 2 days. My former in-laws are flying in from Seoul with their legal team. It's going to get ugly. How ugly? They're going to bring up my business dealings. The rumors. The federal investigations that went nowhere. They're going to paint me as a criminal and claim Min isn't safe with me. But he is safe with you. Anyone can see that. Can they? Jianjun's laugh was bitter. Look at what happened with Huang. I brought danger right to our doorstep. And you eliminated that danger. Celine stood and rounded the desk. Jianjun, you're an amazing father. Min adores you. He adored his mother more. And she's dead because of me. The confession was raw, broken. What are you talking about? Celine knelt beside his chair. The cancer, she might have survived if we'd caught it earlier. But I was so focused on the business, on expanding, on proving myself to her family, that I didn't notice she was sick until it was too late. His hands fisted on the armrests. Min stopped talking at her funeral. He looked at me like I'd murdered her myself. Jianjun, no. Celine covered his hand with hers. Cancer isn't your fault. You couldn't have known. I should have known. I should have been paying attention. I should have. Celine pulled his face to hers and kissed him, silencing the spiral of self-blame. When she pulled back, his eyes were wet. You're a good man, she said fiercely. You're a good father. And in 2 days, I'm going to sit in that courtroom and tell the judge exactly that. Celine. I mean it. You saved me and Naomi. Now let me save you and Min. Jianjun pulled her into his lap, his arms banding around her waist. How did I get this lucky? You married a broke waitress, Celine teased. No. I married the strongest, most beautiful, most stubborn woman I've ever met. He kissed her softly. I love you. I know this started as a business arrangement, but somewhere along the way, you became everything to me. Celine's breath caught. You love me? Desperately. Completely. Probably since that first day in the diner when you looked at me like I was insane for offering to marry you. His smile was crooked. Tell me I haven't ruined this. You haven't ruined anything. She cupped his face. I love you too. I tried not to. I told myself it was too fast, too complicated, too dangerous. But I can't help it. You're everything I never knew I needed. Jianjun kissed her again, deep and thorough, pouring weeks of longing into it. Celine melted into him, her fingers tangling in his hair. Come to bed with me, he murmured against her lips. Let me show you how much you mean to me. The kids are asleep. Day is on duty. We're allowed to be a married couple, Celine. She let him lead her upstairs to the master bedroom she'd never slept in, let him undress her with reverent hands, let him worship every inch of her body until she forgot everything except his name and the love burning between them. After, wrapped in his arms with her head on his chest, Celine whispered, We're going to win that custody case. I promise you. Jianjun's arms tightened around her. With you beside me, I believe it. The courtroom was packed. Jianjun's former in-laws, the Kims, had brought not just lawyers but character witnesses, expert testimony, and apparently half of Seoul's high society. Mrs. Kim was an elegant woman in her 60s who looked at Jianjun with pure hatred. Mr. Kim was stoic, but his eyes kept drifting to Min, who sat between Celine and Naomi in the gallery. The Kim family attorney was a shark named Park who immediately went for blood. Your Honor, we have extensive documentation proving that Mr. Han is involved in organized crime, money laundering, and potentially violent criminal enterprises. We have witness statements placing him at the scene of multiple assaults. We have financial records showing unexplained cash transactions totaling millions of dollars. Jianjun's attorney, a fierce woman named Song, stood. Your Honor, Mr. Han has never been charged with any crime. These accusations are baseless speculation from a family who has never approved of their daughter's choice to marry him and now seeks to punish him for her death. Punish him? Mrs. Kim stood up from her seat. Our daughter died because he worked her to death. Because he was too busy building his empire to notice she was dying. Mrs. Kim, please sit down, the judge ordered. My grandson doesn't even speak anymore. Tears streamed down Mrs. Kim's face. That's what living with that man has done to him. Min flinched. Celine felt it where his small hand gripped hers. That's when she stood up. Your Honor, may I speak? The judge looked surprised. You are? Celine Han. Mr. Han's wife and Min's stepmother. Park sneered. Your Honor, Mrs. Han has only been married to the defendant for 6 weeks. Hardly long enough to have meaningful insight. Sit down, counselor, the judge said. Mrs. Han, approach. Celine walked to the front, very aware of every eye in the room on her. She cleared her throat. Your Honor, I met Jianjun 2 months ago when I was at my lowest point. I was about to lose custody of my daughter because I couldn't meet the court's requirements for stable housing and partnership. Jianjun offered to help me, a complete stranger, because he understood what it meant to love a child so much you'd do anything to protect them. She took a breath. In the time I've known him, I've watched him be an incredible father to Min, patient. Loving. Present. Yes, he works hard, but he also reads Min bedtime stories every night. He helps with homework. He sits on the floor and plays with him for hours. Your Honor, Park interrupted. This is hardly relevant. It's entirely relevant, Celine shot back. Because the Kims are claiming Jianjun is a bad father, and I'm telling you they're wrong. Min stopped speaking because he lost his mother, a trauma that would break any child. But he's healing. With his father's love and support, he's healing. She looked at Min in the gallery. Min, can you come here, please? The little boy slipped off his seat and walked to Celine, his hand finding hers immediately. Your Honor, I know Min doesn't speak. But he can communicate. Min, do you want to stay with your daddy? Min looked up at her with those solemn eyes, then nodded firmly. Are you happy at home with us? Another nod, more emphatic. Do you feel safe? This time Min